Okay, hello VueJS Amsterdam. You don't realize how good it feels to say that from my mouth, to finally say that, and I'm really, really happy to be here today. So, in terms of web performance, Mark announced me that I will be speaking about it. How web performance affects e-commerce, and more specifically, how improving web performance affects user experience and results of e-commerce websites. Okay, so Swappy, popular e-commerce website that swaps phones, did or improved the Core Web Vitals metrics by around 50%. So Core Web Vitals metrics such as largest contentful paint, cumulative layout shift, and interaction to next paint. So they improved them by around 50% each, and they noticed that those improvements led to 23% lower page load times. This contributes to both user experience and more efficient resource usage. But it also contributes around 32% increase in mobile revenue, which means sales. So in short words, better performance means more money. So what we as developers can do to improve performance of those e-commerce websites? I was already introduced, but I will do it another round. My name is Jakub, with more up-to-date picture because the other one is when I was still studying. My name is Jakub, and I'm a full-stack developer and advocate at Montreal. On a daily basis, I work with Next framework. I really like working with it. As we had in the video, people like using Next. And I'm also part of Next ecosystem team, which means that I'm responsible for maintaining few of the modules. So if you use modules such as image, security, Cloudinary, for example, I'm helping Next core team maintain them so that we get less bugs and more interesting features. And apart from that, I'm also a Google developer expert in web performance, which means I care about performance a lot on my daily basis. And since I start working with Vue, learning Vue almost 7 or almost 8 years ago, being here and speaking here in front of you was always my dream. So I'm really happy to say that today I can realize this dream, check it from the to-do list, and be able to participate in this event with all of you, amazing, amazing Vue community. So I'm really, really happy to be here. But that's not it. So what do you need to build performant e-commerce? There are actually several things that you need to have in order to build a performant e-commerce shop. Starting with an accessible and performant UI library. We need those building blocks that allows us to build new pages, new product pages, category pages efficiently that are accessible. We had a talk yesterday by Luella about Accessibility Act that is coming in June, that we need to have accessible websites. We had a talk today from Sebastian about Next UI, which is an accessible and performant UI library. So this is the things we need to build performance e-commerce websites. Going further, we need SEO support. We need things such as sitemap. We need our website to be basically findable through the internet so that both search engines and potential customers can see and find our website. We also need things like asset optimization, like image, font, script. So we want to have custom font optimized. We want to have Google Analytics script optimized. We want our images to be optimized so that they won't negatively impact the performance of our website. Apart from that, we also need some integrations because e-commerce is not only about e-commerce platform, it's also about how we can connect it to third-party stuff such as content management system or search engine or maybe a third-party payment gateway. So we need to be able to add them easily. We also want to be able to host it everywhere we want, whether we prefer Vercel or Netlify or Cloudflare or maybe FlyNow or another hosting provider that will arise tomorrow, we want to be able to host our e-commerce application there easily. And finally, we want to be able to control the rendering process of our website and caching. Rendering so that we can decide that, for example, our homepage, we want it to be static because it doesn't change that much, and we want it to be performant as possible. And the others can be dynamic, can be server-side rendered, can be SPA. We want to have the full control. Same for caching, so that we can set different caching rules for different pages, so that we can utilize it to get the best performance out of it. So this is actually a lot of things to put on our heads, which can be very difficult to process. But thankfully, there is a solution for that, and it is Next. Some of the features that I mentioned in the previous slide, they are part of the core framework. Some others can be added as a module or a set of modules. So we are sorted. Whoops, that was fast. Sorry, little spoiler. Yeah, so Next was designed. Is it the right slide? No, it's not the right slide. Sorry. This one is right. So what does it mean, making commerce faster? The topic of my presentation, the title. And I would say we need to divide it into two parts. First of all, one is about improving performance. We need to understand what we can do to our actual websites to make them more performant. So we want to have blazingly fast performance. We want to see scores such as 100s for both mobile and desktop devices, so that all users will get the best performance possible. With the development of our e-commerce shops, it might be very difficult to maintain such score, probably mostly not possible. But if we start from the good score with good practices, it will be easier for us to maintain better score with the development of our e-commerce application. Because otherwise, what will happen is that we will have a great result, then one single script added, and our performance goes to 0. So Next was designed with performance in mind. The core framework was designed with performance in mind. But we can improve it even further if we know where to look at. So first of all, we have things like loading unneeded code. Let's imagine that we have places in our app that are below default. Things like newsletter, things like the footer. They are not needed from the very first load of the application for the user because probably it is below default, they won't see it, so we don't need to load it at first. So in Next, we can use the lazy prefix before the component that allows us to dynamically import the component when it is actually needed, reducing the bundle size, like JavaScript bundle size, to make it more performant. And about the footer, and this specific slide, I showed it to my friend at the company at Montreal, and he shared with me this meme about footer and defooter. And I always, from now on, I will think about the components like with this meme. Second thing, we have unoptimized scripts. I mentioned, for example, Google Analytics. When you go to Google Analytics website for the how to start or how to use it, getting started guide, you will see that you have to take the script and put it into head of your website, head tag of your website. It's not the most performant approach. And for that, we have Next Scripts module that gives us access to very useful composables, such as use script Google Analytics. And then there, we can set the options for the script to, for example, trigger it manually. So we decide when the script is loaded. We can also decide that the script should be loaded after a certain amount of time. Like you can set a timeout there for example, 3 seconds. So we have full control over how the script is loaded. So we can, in some way, say that we are lazy loading it. Third, unoptimized images. This is something that usually comes as a first point that you should take care of while building, or trying to optimize the performance of your website. In my case, it was the third point, but it's very crucial to remember about it. And for that, we have Next Image module that allows us to set 2 types of images. One that is important, like, for example, largest contentful paint element, where we can set fetch priority to high and preload. and the other ones that are not important, such as, for example, the icons of payment methods that we accept in our e-commerce that are in the footer. So for those, we can set the loading to lazy and fetch priority to low. Apart from the things that you can see here on the screen, Next image also allows you to have the most optimal and efficient image format for the browser. So this will mean that automatically, for example, we can set the format to AVIF or WebP that are more efficient than JPEG, for example. We also get automatic resizing and many other things out of the box. Blocking client-side navigation. This is something that I realized not so long ago, that in Next, if you have used async data, so we are fetching some data from the e-commerce platform, for example, and if you have this use async data, it will, by default, block the navigation, like the client-side navigation, before actually showing it to the user. So it will wait until the request to show the page. And the problem with that approach is that we still have some places, like parts of the code, that maybe they don't need to be like blocking the navigation. Maybe we can show the page and load it afterwards. Let's imagine fetching recommended products that usually are below the main product. So for those, we can set the lazy to true, which will not block the navigation, like client-side navigation. So users will be able to go there. They will see the main product. And for the things related to the recommended products that can be below default, it won't affect the navigation. And finally, lack of control over JS hydration. And when I was preparing the slides, I was preparing them a few days ago, before weekend. And on the weekend, Daniel Rowe released a new version of Next 3.16. So until then, if you wanted to have like Next lazy hydration, you could use the module that I created, like called Next lazy hydrate. But now, thanks to the 3.16, we can use the default built-in solution to lazy hydration. They work very similar, so the approach can be almost the same. So if you compare the website that has those recommendations that I mentioned to the one that doesn't, the result can be around 20 points in the Lighthouse score. So that's us when we figure it out, that those simple changes lead to that increase in performance score. But trying to improve the performance, we cannot forget about SEO, search engine optimization. So we want to be able to send to someone a link that has a right title, description, has some image to the product, for example, that we want to send. We want our website to be findable through the internet. And for that, I would like to say a huge kudos to Harlan Vinton, who is the creator of Next SEO, which is a collection of modules for SEO, like sitemap, robots, dynamic OG image, and probably many, many more. And first thing from his collection of modules is the sitemap. So sitemap, by default, will generate the sitemap XML based on your pages in build time. But we can configure it to do it on runtime, which means that we always get up-to-date sitemap based on the products or collections that we have in our e-commerce platform. Then we have SEO meta, where we can set things like title, description, Twitter card, OG image, and so on and so on. JSON LD, where we can set structured JSON data for our products, where we can set information such as price, availability, currency, and so on and so on. Robots.txt, I already mentioned it, another module from Harlan that allows us to make the website indexable, and it points directly to the sitemap XML file. And finally, we want to be able to define OG images. The best would be to define them dynamically, such as the one you can see right now. Because with this approach, I'm using the template that comes. There are a collection of templates in OG image module that you can use. This one is Next, but you can also build your custom one, like the traditional view component where you will pass some props, and it will display the image accordingly. So these things we all get, we are using either the core framework or the modules that come with Next. Then you mentioned that Next is not about single product, it's about the ecosystem of things we are getting. Again, sorry, little spoiler. So another thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of the making commerce faster is how we can accelerate the development. Because one thing is to understand what we can do to actually improve the current performance, and the second one is how we can accelerate the development, so creating new e-commerce websites. And there are already some great Next templates that we can use. Starting with VueNext, which is a project created by Scott Kennedy, my friend. And he created the statically generated Next application that is powered by WooCommerce. It looks stunning. It looks great. So make sure to check it out if you are looking for this particular stack to build your next e-commerce website. Next, we have Nitrogen, which is a Next alternative to Shopify Hydrogen, built by Rylan Harper, also a friend of mine. And it also looks nice. It works really well. It is, as I mentioned, the alternative of the project that was created at Shopify by around, I don't know, 100 people, and Rylan did it himself. So a lot of great work there. And finally, we also have Alokai, which is a great solution for like enterprise customers who are using like SAP, or using BigCommerce or Salesforce Commerce Cloud. And today I have a cool announcement for you regarding all of the things that I mentioned previously, because I would like to announce Next Commerce. And Next Commerce is a high-performance server-rendered e-commerce app built with Next and Shopify. It comes with Next UI, version 3, by the way, image and script optimization, hybrid rendering, SEO, and basically everything I talked about in the previous slides. It comes in Next Commerce. And here I would like to also say a huge kudos to Next UI team, because initially Next Commerce was created with Next UI 2, and the release of Next UI 3 was done, I suppose, yesterday. And I was migrating Next Commerce to Next UI 3 from the version 2, and it took me around 2 hours, which is not bad for migrating to a new version, where I suppose internally Next UI changed a lot. So huge kudos to Sebastian, Benjamin, and the whole Next UI team for being able to release a completely new version of the project without causing too many breaking changes and making the migration smooth. And the pictures I showed you, the ones with PageSpeed Insights results, they are actually coming from Next Commerce, the project I showed you, the one that I announced. But you might ask, what about Core Web Vitals? I'm talking still about the Lighthouse. It's not like full performance score. So I did some tests for the Next Commerce on local environment. I used the 4 times slowdown CPU. I used slow 4G for the network. I disabled cache. And every time I was trying to use the website, all metrics were green. So they were passing the Core Web Vitals assessment. So now I would like to show you a short demo of Next Commerce. And as I mentioned, it's not full screen for some reason. It is an e-commerce website. So we have things like homepage. We have a collection of products that we can scroll. We can go to category page where we have different collections. We have a list of products. We can sort them by price, by best selling, for example. Everything is done very, very fast and efficient. We have the product page where we can see or scroll even for the images of the product that we want to buy. We can select certain variant of the product that we want to buy, select quantity, add to cart, product was added. We can go to order summary, modify if we want more products like this. And if we click checkout, what will happen is that we will be redirected to Shopify external checkout. All of that done very simply to not overcomplicate stuff that usually comes with e-commerce. So In terms of the demo, there is also a thing about the search, so we can search for example, shared, and we will see like the products we've shared. We can also add a different product here to the list as well. I hope so. These are the things with the demo, right? You try something and it doesn't work. Okay. Let's try something different here. This one? Oh, this one works. Yeah, so we have multiple products, and we can, for example, change the quantity here. We can remove the product if we don't like. If we don't like the another one, we can also remove it as well. Usual e-commerce stuff. So this was done to achieve the best performance possible. But as I mentioned, that's not enough, because the part about accelerating development, it's not only about how we can start development efficient e-commerce websites, it's also about how we can maintain it afterwards. So for that, I would like to talk about extendable and modular architecture. And it sounds crazy, but it's simple. So the fact is that if we want to extend our e-commerce application, for example, add a CMS to it, add a search, we can do it globally, like add it to our core next.config.ts file, like add the module, add the code to all of our pages, our components. But if we change something then, like we need to change completely, like to use different CMS or to change something globally in the CMS configuration, it might be difficult to keep track of all of these things. So for that, I would like to introduce you to the concept of modular architecture, where each integration comes in the form of a next module. And in this example, you see that we have a module that is called Storyblock. In it, we utilize the amazing functionality of auto imports from Anthony Fu, where we are able to auto import components, composables, types, basically anything that is located in this folder. And then we install the module, in this case, the official Storyblock module. And you might be asking, why creating another module if there is already a module for Storyblock? That is good. It's a good question, because it's for your local Storyblock files or CMS files, for components, for pages. These things won't come with the official Storyblock module. And for that, I would like to show you the second thing related to the Next Commerce, which is this modular architecture. So in terms of the code, Next Commerce is Next, like as simple as that. It doesn't come with any special like architecture behind it, anything added. It's just Next application, and that was the idea from the beginning, to not overcomplicate stuff. So we have app. It is supporting already, maybe I'll increase it a bit. It already supports the Next 4 app structure. So we have assets, components, pages in the app folder. In server, we have the previously mentioned dynamic sitemap generation. And in the modules here, what we will see is we will see two folders, one for Shopify and one for Storyblock. Shopify is where all our things related to Shopify, they live there, basically. So we have the GraphQL client that is used to send GraphQL queries, for example, for products and mutations. And we have types, and we have composables to handle, for example, cart state. So the information about cart, about the products that we added to cart, and also to redirect user to a proper URL for external checkout. So this is about Shopify, everything hidden in some way in one folder. And same will be for Storyblock, where there is also a module named Storyblock, and we auto-import components that will be in this folder, and we install the Storyblock official module. And the components, they are very simple. We have block cart, which is basically displays like an image and some title description. But what is good in this approach is that we get access, for example, to Tailwind if we install it globally. We also get the access to Next image, even though it's not part of this module, but we still get it because we use it in a main project. And we have block cart list, which basically fetches the information from Storyblock and displays a block card with VueJS, which I will show you one more thing here. So this is the same like Nuxt Commerce, but if we scroll down here, you will see that we have latest blog posts, which are just the block cards I showed you in the code. So in Storyblok, we can change them. We can change, for example, that we want to get started with Nuxt instead of Vue. We can change the order of the cards. That's just how content management system works. So let me come back to the slides. If you'd like to see how Nuxt Commerce works in more details, it is an open source template. I made it public today before the presentation to just not add a little bit more stress to my presentation. So if you like, you can scan this QR code. It will take you to the GitHub repository of Nuxt Commerce project. Make sure to check it out. Let me know what things can be done in a different, better way, what things do not work. If you like it, make sure to also give it a star. And from this point, I would like to say that this project wouldn't be possible without the people you see here, so namely Alvaro, Torsten, Julian, Alex, Sebastian, Lucy, Daniel, Sarah, who created all the design part of Nuxt Commerce, and also Rylan and Scotty. Make sure to follow them. If you'd like to follow me as well, you can do so by using the @Jakub_Andrzejewski tag. I have a blog where I publish weekly about Vue, Nuxt, and performance. I also have a X or Twitter and Blue Sky accounts, and also a YouTube channel. So I would like to finish my talk with one more thing. So have you noticed what was the recurring concept of performance improvements? We talked about images, and specifically lazy loading them if they are not needed. We talked about the scripts, that we want to load them when we need it. We talked about lazy hydration, lazy loading components, delaying, or lazy data fetching, and so on and so on. So I would like to leave this with you with one final note, that if you want to be fast, you have to be lazy. That will be it from my side. Thank you very much for having me, and enjoy the rest of the conference.